The phone rang at 3:47 a.m. I barely slept anymore, but instinctively I answered. Calls at this hour never brought good news. A crackle of static preceded a woman's voice. Professional, urgent, almost too calm for what she was about to say. Is this Evan Garrison? My name is Patricia Chen. I'm a social worker at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. I'm calling about your daughter. My hand tightened around the receiver. My daughter? My voice was flat, mechanical. That's impossible. She died 31 years ago. There was a pause on the line, the kind that makes your stomach drop into your chest. Then, Mr. Garrison, I understand this must be shocking, but she has identification. She says she's Jennifer Garrison, and she knows about the crescent-shaped birthmark on her left shoulder blade. The one you called her Lucky Moon when she was little? I froze. Nobody knew about that. Not the police, not the media, not anyone outside our family. It was a secret I'd kept since she was 3. A small comfort for a little girl terrified of the dark. And now someone claiming to be her knew. She's stable now. But she's asking for you, the woman continued. The room tilted. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my wife Margaret beside me, silent but fully aware of the storm brewing inside me. Her eyes searched mine for answers, but I had none. Evan, who is it? She asked softly, her voice steady, grounding. Someone says they found Jennifer, I whispered, my fingers trembling. She knew about the birthmark. She remembered the lucky moon. Without another word, I grabbed yesterday's shirt from the chair and tugged on my jeans. Margaret watched, careful, as if expecting me to do something reckless. I have to go, I muttered. I have to see her. I didn't pause to wonder if this was a cruel trick. A ghost from the past mocking my grief. I didn't think about the 4-hour drive to Vancouver. The uncertainty, the disbelief. My mind was singularly focused on one impossible truth. My daughter might still be alive. The streets were empty. The world still asleep as I slammed the car door and started the engine. My hands shook, gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. The highway stretched before me like an endless ribbon of dread, each mile taking me closer to a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. 31 years of grief, of imagining her face, her laugh, her touch. All of it collided with the thought that she might be alive. Alive and just a few hours away. Margaret had stayed behind. Silent, her presence felt through the car phone as I made a half-hearted call. I'll call when I get there, I muttered, barely able to form the words. She didn't argue, just sighed, a sound heavier than words, a mixture of fear, hope, and disbelief. I could feel her trying to anchor me, but I was already slipping. Into a storm of old memories, I remembered the day she disappeared 31 years ago. The chaos, the panic, the hopelessness as the police dragged me through streets and alleys, questioning everyone, finding nothing. Every night since had been haunted by her absence, a shadow following me through decades of birthdays, graduations I never attended, milestones I only imagined. And now, at 63, I was racing against time, my mind a mixture of terror and desperate hope. Traffic was light, but every passing car felt like a countdown. I imagined what she might look like now, older, changed, but somehow familiar. Would she recognize me? Would I recognize her? The questions churned endlessly, each one sharper than the last. By the time Vancouver's skyline appeared, gray and cold under the dawn sky, my stomach had settled into a hard knot. I parked outside St. Paul's Hospital, my hands still trembling, and stared up at the facade, the psychiatric unit, of all places, and there she was, or at least the possibility of her. My heart raced, threatening to burst as I imagined Jennifer sitting in a room, finally alive, finally remembering, finally waiting for me. I entered the hospital, the antiseptic smell burning my nostrils, and the receptionist barely glanced at me. I'm here to see Jennifer Garrison, I said, my voice tighter than I intended. Her father. She's expecting me. A nurse appeared from behind the counter, her expression calm but alert. Follow me, Mr. Garrison, she's in the unit. And she's been asking for you. Since she arrived, each step down the hallway felt like a lifetime. My heart pounded in my ears as we approached a single door at the end. The nurse's hand lightly on my shoulder. And then the door opened, and there she was. Before I continue, tell, from which place are you watching this story right now? Please subscribe and like the video for motivation. The door opened, and there she was. My daughter, older, changed, but unmistakably her. The crescent-shaped birthmark on her left shoulder blade was there, just as the social worker had said. My knees went weak and I stumbled slightly, catching myself against the frame. 31 years of grief, anger, despair, and longing all slammed into me at once. Jennifer's eyes met mine, wide and searching. There was recognition there, but it was tentative, fragile, like a bird just learning to trust the hand that feeds it. She wasn't the child I remembered. She was a woman, taller than I had imagined, her features sharper, her presence both familiar and foreign. Yet in that instant, in that heartbeat, she was still my little girl, the one I had mourned every day for decades. "Evan?" she whispered, her voice trembling, but strong enough to carry through the sterile room. "It's you. You're here, Evan," she whispered, her voice trembling, but strong enough to carry through the sterile room. "It's you. You're here." My chest tightened. I couldn't speak at first. Words had abandoned me in the face of this impossible reality. I wanted to shout, cry, laugh, and hold her all at once, but none of it came. Instead, I moved slowly toward her, my hands extended as if reaching through time itself. She took a hesitant step forward, then another, and finally. We were close enough that I could see the faint tremor in her fingers, the same nervous habit she had had as a child. She reached out and I took her hands into mine. They were real, warm, alive. My heart felt like it might burst. How is this possible? I finally managed, my voice cracking. You were gone 31 years ago. I saw your grave. I grieved for you every day. How can you be here? Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I don't know all of it yet, but I remember things now, pieces, fragments. The people who took me. They made me forget at first, but now it's coming back. I remember you, Dad. I remember the lucky moon. The words hit me like a physical blow. She remembered. The secret we had buried with her was alive in her mind, a thread that had survived years of absence, of trauma, of silence. I pulled her into my arms, trembling, holding her, as if I could somehow make up for all the years we had lost. The nurse gave us a respectful distance, silently understanding that this reunion wasn't theirs to witness, not really. I felt Margaret's presence in my mind, wishing she could see this moment too, wishing she could understand the storm of emotions I was drowning in. I thought I'd never see you again, I whispered into her hair, my voice shaking uncontrollably. I thought I'd spent the rest of my life alone, carrying your memory like a wound that would never heal. Jennifer pulled back slightly, just enough to look me in the eyes. You didn't carry me wrong, Dad. You kept the memory alive. That's why I found you. That's why I remembered. A rush of emotions overwhelmed me. Relief, fear, joy, and disbelief all colliding at once. Every rational thought had vanished, replaced by the pure, raw intensity of this impossible reunion. My mind raced with questions. How had she survived? Who had taken her? Why had no one come forward sooner? And most pressing of all, why now, after 31 years, had she suddenly appeared? Before I could ask, Jennifer's gaze shifted slightly, a shadow of concern crossing her face. I need to tell you everything, but it's dangerous. They're still out there, Evan. They didn't want me to remember. They didn't want me to find you. The weight of her words pressed down on me like a physical force. My daughter had been kept alive all this time, but at what cost? And now that she was here, the danger that had haunted her, and perhaps threatened her for decades, might not be over. I held her tighter. We'll face it together, I said firmly, though my voice quivered. Whatever it takes, we face it together. I'll never let anyone take you from me again. Jennifer nodded, her own strength shining through despite the fear in her eyes. I need you to trust me, Dad. There's so much you don't know, and so much I have to remember, but we have to be careful. And in that moment, the room felt impossibly small, yet infinite. 31 years of absence had led to this impossible reunion, and I realized that our journey was just beginning. The questions, the answers, the dangers, they were all waiting for us, and there was no turning back now. We sat in the small, sterile room, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead, and the faint scent of antiseptic hanging in the air. Jennifer's hands were folded tightly in her lap, and I could see the tension in her jaw, the way her eyes darted to the door every few seconds, as if expecting it to burst open at any moment. My mind raced, trying to reconcile the impossible reality of her presence with the flood of questions. I had questions I didn't even know where to begin asking. How did you survive? I asked finally, my voice barely more than a whisper. Who took you? Why did no one ever find you? Jennifer's eyes darkened, clouded with pain and memory. It's complicated, Dad. I was taken by people who were very careful, very clever. They erased everything they could, made sure the world believed I was gone. I was hidden, moved from place to place, and I wasn't allowed to remember my old life. They trained me, shaped me, and told me the past never existed. Until recently, until the last few months. I had no idea who I really was. I could feel my chest tightening, the room shrinking around me as I tried to absorb her words. 31 years. 31 years of my life spent imagining her face, imagining what she was doing, imagining her happiness, her pain, all while she was alive. Trapped in a nightmare I couldn't even imagine. Why now? I asked, my voice trembling. Why did you suddenly remember? Why did you reach out? She swallowed hard, tears glistening in her eyes. I don't know why my memory came back now. Maybe it was the right time. Maybe something finally broke through their control. I don't remember everything yet. But the important parts, the pieces that matter, you. I remembered you, Dad. I remembered the lucky moon. And once that came back, it led me here. I wanted to reach out and hold her again, to shield her from the horror of what she had endured. But I held back, realizing she needed space to tell her story in her own way. Every word she spoke was a thread, connecting the past with the present, unraveling the mystery of decades of absence. They're still out there, she said finally, her voice dropping. My stomach tightened. The people who took me, they didn't want me to remember. They didn't want me to find you. I've been careful, Dad. I've been very careful. But I made a mistake recently, and now they know I'm awake. I'm remembering. And now, I think they might come for me. The weight of her words pressed down on me. My daughter had survived unimaginable torment, and now that she had returned, she was not safe. 31 years of pain had led to this fragile reunion. And yet the danger was not gone. It was closer than ever, lurking just beyond the walls of the hospital, waiting for the right moment to strike. We'll face it together, I said again, my voice stronger this time. Whatever they want, whatever they've done to you, we'll face it together. I won't let them take you again. She looked at me, a mixture of fear and relief in her eyes. I trust you, Dad. But we have to be smart. We can't just go back to a normal life. Not yet. We need to figure out who they are, what they want, and how to protect ourselves. I nodded, feeling a surge of protective instinct unlike anything I had ever known. 31 years of grief had ended, but a new battle had begun, one that would test our courage, our bond, and the strength of a father's love. For the first time in decades, I allowed myself to imagine a future where she was safe, where we could begin to heal together. But the shadow of the past was long, and the enemies who had hidden her for so long were patient, cunning, and dangerous. Every plan we made, every step we took, would need to be precise. And yet, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, I held her hand and knew that we were no longer alone. The sun had barely risen over Vancouver when we left the hospital. Jennifer moved beside me, cautious, her eyes scanning every street, every alley, every passerby with the vigilance of someone who had spent decades hiding. The city was waking up, unaware of the storm of our lives that was about to collide with its ordinary rhythm. I kept my hand on hers, feeling the warmth, the reality that she was finally here. But even as hope surged, a creeping sense of dread followed us like a shadow. We need to know who did this to me, Jennifer said, her voice low but steady. I need to understand why, and we need to be ready. They won't stop just because I'm here, I nodded, swallowing hard. Every instinct screamed at me to protect her, to shield her from the horrors she had endured for 31 years. And yet the truth demanded courage, demanded action. We couldn't hide forever. We had to confront the past to secure the future. Our first stop was the only clue. Jennifer had a name she remembered faintly, a connection to the people who had taken her all those years ago. The moment we walked into the small, unassuming office, I felt the weight of decades pressing down on me. The receptionist looked up, polite but dismissive, and I forced myself to keep my composure. I'm looking for information about a woman named Jennifer Garrison, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I believe she may have been connected to someone here 30 years ago. The receptionist's eyes narrowed slightly, and a small, almost imperceptible tension hung in the air. Something was off. My pulse quickened, my grip on Jennifer's hand tightening. She sensed it too, leaning slightly closer to me. They've been watching us, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I felt it the moment we left the hospital. Someone knows we're here. Every hair on my body stood on end. I could feel the danger pressing closer, a cold, suffocating presence that made the city feel suddenly alien. I had spent decades imagining this reunion, dreaming of this day. And now the first taste of reality was raw and terrifying. We were not alone. Hours passed as we followed faint leads, talking to old contacts, piecing together fragments of Jennifer's lost years. Each revelation was like a jagged puzzle piece, some painful, some illuminating, but every piece pointed to a network of people who were still powerful, still dangerous. They had planned for decades, and now, 31 years later, we were uncovering the web they had woven to keep her hidden. "We have to be careful," I said finally, my voice rough with tension. "They are watching, and they're clever, but we have to keep moving. Every step we take is a risk, but doing nothing isn't an option." Jennifer nodded, determination hardening her expression. "I know, Dad, but whatever they want, whatever they've done, we won't let them control me anymore. Not now, not ever." Night fell, wrapping the city in darkness, and the sense of being hunted grew sharper. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of my vision, and every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the shuffle of feet on sidewalks, made my nerves taut. The world we thought we knew had vanished, replaced by a labyrinth of deceit, secrets, and danger. And yet, as I looked at Jennifer, alive, determined, and finally free in a way I had never thought possible, I felt a surge of resolve. 31 years of grief had led us here, to this moment, to this fight, and I would face whatever came next, whatever horrors, lies, or threats, because I would never let them take her from me again. The shadows were closing in, yes, but for the first time in decades, we were ready to meet them head-on. The city was quiet as we moved through the narrow alleyways behind the office building we had just left. But the silence felt heavy, unnatural, like the calm before a storm. Every instinct in my body screamed that we were being followed. Jennifer's grip tightened on my hand. Her knuckles pale, yet her eyes burned with resolve. We had uncovered fragments of the past, names, connections, hints of a network that had stolen her life. But now the abstract threat had become real. "Evan, someone's here," she whispered, her voice low, urgent. I didn't need to look. I could feel it, a presence, deliberate, calculated, just steps behind us. The hairs on the back of my neck rose, my pulse hammering in my ears. We ducked behind a corner, pressing ourselves against the cold brick wall. The footsteps stopped, but I could sense the watcher's gaze, sharp and searching. 31 years of imagined nightmares couldn't have prepared me for this moment, the knowledge that someone had been waiting for her return, waiting to ensure she stayed hidden forever. "We can't confront them yet," I murmured, my voice trembling slightly despite my attempt at control. "We need to find out who they are, what they want." "But we need a plan," Jennifer nodded, her jaw set, her eyes scanning the street, noting every exit, every shadow. "They know we're moving. They know we're close." But I remember more now. Small things, clues, locations they've used in the past. "We can turn this around, Evan, but we have to be careful." We moved cautiously, slipping through narrow streets, avoiding cameras, pedestrians, and any chance of being seen. My mind raced, connecting the dots, replaying everything Jennifer had told me, every name, every location, every threat she had endured. The people who had stolen her had decades of planning. They were patient, ruthless, and now they were aware we were awake, aware we were looking. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from the shadow of a doorway, tall, broad, face obscured. My heart froze. Jennifer stiffened, readying herself. The figure raised a hand slightly, almost a warning, almost a signal, and then moved back into the shadows. It was deliberate, calculated, an intimidation, letting us know that we were being watched, that our every move had consequences. "They're not just hiding anymore," Jennifer said, her voice barely audible but fierce. "They're testing us, trying to scare us, trying to see how far we'll go." I swallowed hard, feeling a cold knot of fear twist in my stomach. 31 years of grief had prepared me for loss, for loneliness, for imagining the worst. But this, the palpable presence of real danger, was something entirely different. This was immediate, unavoidable, and lethal. And it was aimed at Jennifer, my daughter, the only living piece of my heart. "We'll need allies," I said finally, my voice firm, steadying both her and myself. "We can't fight them blindly. We have to be smart, strategic. and we have to trust each other. No matter what, Jennifer nodded, her gaze locking onto mine, filled with a mix of fear, determination, and the faintest spark of hope. I trust you, Dad, but they're dangerous. They won't stop until they get what they want, or until they stop us. And with that, the game began in earnest. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every step could be a trap. The people who had taken her had decades of experience manipulating, controlling, and hiding. But we had something they could not anticipate: the bond of a father and daughter, reunited against impossible odds, and willing to face anything to reclaim the life that had been stolen. As the night deepened, I realized that the battle was no longer just about survival. It was about justice, memory, and finally breaking the chains of a nightmare that had lasted 31 years. And whatever it took, we would not be stopped. Not now, not ever. The city was cloaked in darkness, the night air thick with tension and the distant hum of traffic masking the silence of those who were watching. Every step Jennifer and I took felt like walking through a minefield. After days of piecing together her past, following leads, and uncovering fragments of the network that had stolen her, we knew the final confrontation was inevitable. Whoever had taken her 31 years ago was still alive, still dangerous, and now, emboldened by our search, they were prepared to act. We reached an abandoned warehouse at the edge of the city, a location Jennifer had identified from a memory fragment: the faint smell of oil and rust, the cracked windows, the locked gates. She remembered being brought here as a child, the fear, the isolation, the rules enforced with violence and intimidation. And now it seemed we were walking straight into the lion's den. "Are you ready?" I whispered, my hand brushing hers, gripping tight for courage. "I've been ready for 31 years, she replied, her voice trembling slightly but resolute. "Let's end this." We slipped inside, shadows our only allies. The warehouse was massive, echoing with every creak of the floor and whisper of the wind through broken windows. And then we saw them, figures emerging from the darkness, faces obscured, their presence cold and calculated. The people who had taken her, shaped her, and tried to erase her from the world were here 31 years later, facing the consequence of their actions. "Evan." "Dad," Jennifer whispered, her voice fierce now. "Stay behind me." I nodded, instinctively knowing that she had carried more than I ever could. The courage in her stance, the fire in her eyes, reminded me why we were here. Not just for revenge, not just for justice, but to reclaim a life stolen and a bond severed for decades. The confrontation was tense. Words exchanged like knives. Threats, accusations, and long-hidden truths surfaced. Jennifer spoke of her time in their control, every detail precise, every memory a shard of pain she now wielded as strength. And then, in a moment I will never forget, she turned to me. "It's time, Dad, we end this." With that we moved. The culmination of 31 years of fear and grief collided with determination and love. They tried to intimidate, to force us into submission. But we were no longer powerless children or helpless parents. We were a unit, a father and daughter reunited, and nothing could break that bond. Every step we took, every defensive move, was precise, fueled by survival, instinct, and the unyielding love that had never died. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The danger was immediate, tangible, but for every threat they posed, we matched with resolve. And in the final moments, as dawn crept over the horizon, we stood victorious. The network that had stolen her, hidden her, and tried to erase her existence was broken, scattered, powerless against the force of a father's love and a daughter. Reclaiming her life, we emerged from the warehouse into the first light of morning. Jennifer, alive, free, and finally whole, turned to me. Her eyes reflected exhaustion, pain, relief, and an unspoken gratitude that no words could capture. I pulled her into my arms, feeling the years collapse in an instant. 31 years of grief and longing melted into this single, powerful moment of reunion and triumph. "We're safe now," I whispered, though I knew the scars of the past would always remain. "No one can take you from me again," she smiled faintly, her hands pressing against mine. "Not ever, Dad, not ever." The city around us woke slowly, unaware of the storm that had passed, the battle fought and won in the shadows. But we knew. Jennifer was back. I was whole again. And though the past could not be erased, the future, our future, was ours to claim. For 31 years, hope had seemed impossible. But now, standing in the light of dawn with my daughter finally safe, I realized that even in the darkest nights, even through decades of loss and despair, The heart could endure, survive, and triumph. And nothing, no shadow, no threat, no lie, could ever take that away again.